Is there ever a dull moment in the world of Formula One? Well, probably not, because the silly season has already started nice and early this year again. Not just on the driver market, but also on the front of team principals. Who will stay, who will go, and what effect will it have on the rest of the grid? We will be discussing these topics in today's video. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video, of course. First of all, there's a different face on the screen for this video today. Nick is enjoying some well-deserved days off, so I jumped in from the Dutch side of the company, which you might have already noticed by my Dutch accent. I was once actually compared to Louis van Gaal when he was at Manchester United, so that's what you'll have to deal with it today, Ian.
It's fine, mate. All good. It is very different to see a different face on the screen. Obviously, I've got so used to Nick over these past 18 months, but hey, good to have you on board. Welcome to .com.
I will throw in Only Time Will Tell somewhere halfway the video.
I have to.
So, of course, with me today is lead editor Ian Parks. Well, let's get straight into the first question. Let's start with Christian Horner, the bombshell of last week. Is there a chance we'll see him at another F1 team and possibly Ferrari, because Fred Vasseur's position is being talked about a lot lately as well? And wouldn't Horner have to deal also with a gardening leave if he went to another team?
It's a $10 million question, Jos. Where will Christian Horner end up next? The interesting aspect about this whole scenario for Christian Horner as to where he might go, of course, we know that over his 20 years at Red Bull, he built up what was effectively this empire. He was not just the team principal, he was the CEO as well, which meant that he didn't just control things with the team on a day-to-day basis, at the factory, at the circuit. He, of course, had this complete overview and was in charge primarily as to exactly what the team would be doing financially, where its money was going, its resources, what would be applied to certain projects and other elements within the team like that. So as I say, yes, there was Red Bull GmbH, which we know is the parent company of Red Bull, but nevertheless, Christian Horner was pretty much given almost complete autonomy. Now, if he decided to go elsewhere, let's say Ferrari or Alpine, because those are the two teams that he is being linked with at the moment, he would just be the team principal. Because let's take Ferrari. We know for argument's sake that at the Scuderia, it has John Elkann as chairman and Benedetto Vigna as its managing director figure, who oversee those financial aspects on a day-to-day basis. Horner would have no control as to where the money would go, what he would, yes, he could make recommendations, quite obviously, as to what he would want for where the finances would go. It'd be a similar scenario at Alpine, but even Alpine now, that's just changed its CEO. That represents a whole different scenario for Horner to deal with. So could he just accept being a team principal on a day-to-day basis without having this, as I say, this being in charge of all aspects of a team? I think that might be very difficult for him to deal with compared to what he's been used to in the past. So let's let him enjoy his gardening leave for now, and who knows where he might pitch up.
Of course, Horner's departure could also cause more changes at Red Bull. With Horner now gone, that's also one less person who is in charge of making or having influence on driver decisions. Could Verstappen now decide to stay with a fresh air going through the organization? And who might Red Bull put alongside Verstappen if he manages to stay for 2026?
Addressing the first question, and obviously, again, this is another multi-million-dollar question, isn't it, with regard to Max? Is he going to stay? Is he going to go?
I'm asking the good ones today, yeah.
Exactly. Regular viewers will know to our updates, to our podcasts, that I have said consistently throughout the course of this year, what would be the point in Max Verstappen leaving Red Bull to go to a new team for next season? The reason being, of course, we do not know what the regulations are going to bring. Yes, Max might have an idea as to how the Red Bull power unit, which it is developing for the first time in its history with Red Bull powertrains, might be faring in terms of how it's looking in terms of its development, what are the opportunities for it, etc., going into next season. But if Max jumped to Mercedes, if Max left for Aston Martin, okay, it might be better, but it might not be that front-running team that he wants to be at to continue his title-winning streak. I've always said, Max, stay still where you are for 2026. And then if there are additional contract clauses within his deal that we know runs through to the end of 2028, if they can be enacted, take your opportunity then to activate them. And then you've got a better opportunity to see which team might be that front-running team across 2026 and is going to give you the opportunity in 2027 to add to your title-winning capabilities. In terms of that second seat, okay, it's not been good for Yuki Tsunoda, and that's underestimating it, isn't it, Jos, in fairness? He's had a wretched time since he replaced Liam Lawson after the initial 2 Grand Prix for Liam in Australia and China, where he was ditched very, very quickly in favour of bringing Yuki in. Yuki has scored a miserable amount of points and just not good enough from a Red Bull perspective. We know he's been seriously struggling with that car. He said only recently that it has the narrowest working window of any Formula One car he's been associated with. The good thing for Yuki Tsunoda is that Laurel Mekies has come in, and at least Laurel knows, having worked with Yuki last season, what he is getting with Yuki as a driver, where he might be able to help Yuki as a driver going forward in tandem with the car. It could be that this just might be the clean sheet of paper that Yuki Tsunoda needs, and he might be given now that additional opportunity into 2026 under Laurel Mekies that perhaps was not going to be there under Christian Horner. So it's open at the moment, but as I say, Yuki's got a fighting chance now of still being in that car, because who knows, maybe it might just be one that works better for him next year than is currently the case this season.
Only time will tell, as Nick would say.
Oh, there you go.
I have
You've
to
got
throw
to
it
get
in
it
there.
in.
Of course I have to. Nick will be back, by the way, on Monday for the new podcast and the updates from the Belgian Grand Prix next week. Also, there's the Cadillac team, of course. They haven't made any driver or team principal announcements as of now. Sergio Perez is being mentioned as a possible candidate for that one of the 2 seats. What's actually the current status of the Cadillac project? Because they themselves haven't made an announcement yet.
Yeah, of course. Well, we've seen 1 or 2 outlets kind of jumping the gun and saying, yeah, Sergio's got this deal for next year. Yes, of course, we know he's a front runner, and why wouldn't he be? He brings huge experience with him, and that would benefit Cadillac enormously. But both myself and Aaron Deckers, obviously your good colleague on .nl, and my good colleague as well, of course, in attending the Grand Prix across the course of the year, should not dismiss that in any way. But Aaron and I, work really well. We've both got our sources, and we can say that no deal has been signed as yet with Sergio Perez, Valtteri Bottas, or any other driver for those 2 Cadillac seats. Those 2 names I've mentioned, Sergio and Valtteri, would appear, as I say, to be the most obvious choices for Cadillac going forward. It's a brand new team. It's starting completely from scratch, unlike, let's say, for argument's sake, the Sauber project or the Audi project that will have the Sauber foundations beneath it. Yeah. So at least it has that on its side, whereas Cadillac, no, this is completely from scratch, as I say. So something very, very different for that team, and it needs experienced hands at the wheel. It would not want to choose a rookie. It would make things incredibly difficult for whoever that driver might be, of course. So yes, understandable that Sergio in particular, and Valtteri, of course, is currently reserve driver at Mercedes, and we know that he does not have a contract with that team going forward into next season. Those 2 drivers would be the most obvious candidates for that seat, and I think it's just a case of time and patience as to when they will more than likely be announced.
Of course, there's one last question for today, and that's regarding Alpine. Next week, there's the Belgium Grand Prix, of course. No announcements have been made as of yet as who will drive next to Pierre Gasly at Spa. Who will we see in the car? Will it just be Colapinto? Will they keep him in there? Will they switch to Jack Doohan again? What's the current plan for Alpine?
Yeah, that's a good question. And as you say, as yet, we've not had any announcement from Alpine as to who its driver might be, its second driver might be alongside Pierre Gasly at the Spa-Francorchamps circuit. I assumed, given the performance of Franco Colapinto over his 6 races since replacing Jack Doohan, that he hadn't performed strongly enough for me to continue to warrant his place within the Alpine driver lineup. And as you say, I remember commenting after the British Grand Prix that I expected Franco to be out of that seat, and more than likely Alpine would revert back to Jack Doohan and give him another try, because I felt Jack across his first 6 races was at least making progress, whereas I haven't seen too much from Franco. Now, I received a few messages after that. It has to be said, a few people not happy with me. You can kind of guess as to there were Franco Colapinto supporters, of course, but it's my viewpoint. I can only offer my opinion at the time. And yes, whilst I still believe there is a great deal of talent within Franco Colapinto, I do not believe that we are seeing it right now. And I do not believe that we have seen the progress over the 6 races that Franco has been in that car that Jack showed, as I mentioned just previously, in his 6 races. So yes, there's been no announcement for Alpine. There's still a little bit of time. Who knows? Maybe Franco has been given some sort of reprieve and they're going to allow him to continue in Belgium and Hungary. And then maybe they'll make a decision over the summer break, and maybe there might be a change in the second half of the season. But as it stands on this Friday afternoon, as you and I are recording, Jos, 1 week ahead of the Belgian Grand Prix weekend, Franco Colapinto is still in the Alpine cockpit for that race.
To be continued for sure. Ian, thank you so much for your insights today. And of course, if you want to stay up to date with all the latest news in F1, follow racingnews365.com, of course, on our socials, YouTube, and of course, our site. Ian, thank you so much. All the best. Best of luck next week in Spa.
Thank you ever so much, and take care as always, folks. And make sure you join Nick and I in the podcast on Monday, along with Sam Cooper, of course. And of course, back for our updates next weekend from the Belgian Grand Prix. Take care until then.